Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, OwlScoop.com's weekly podcast. We are on to episode 25 of season 10. I'm John DeCarlo, OwlScoop.com's editor. And when I say we have a full house, we really have a full house. We've pretty much got the whole crew here today. Assistant editor Kyle Gauss, Johnny Zawizlak, Jason Yevis, Brian Mack, Colin Schofield. I think this is the largest recording crew in the history of the Scoop.
We had when Caden and Javon were still here, and Declan and I were on with. So this is the same size.
And the live show
too. That was the biggest show. Yeah. But
we had everybody.
As when it comes to pre-recorded stuff, I want to shout out that team.
Yeah,
as well.
How was everyone's holiday?
It's January 17th. It has been almost a month since people's holidays.
I'm just, I have problems letting go.
To your full house, I think I'm Uncle Jesse.
You're Uncle Jesse?
I think I'm Uncle Jesse.
How so?
I mean, who else am I going to be? Your uncle, I guess maybe Uncle Joey, but Uncle Jesse has kids. I have kids. Uncle Joey lives in a basement. Well, I basically live in a basement, so I don't know. It could go either way.
You're comparing yourself to John Stamos.
Correct, yes.
Very intentional.
Spot on.
Who's Bob Saget?
I might also be Bob Saget. Fortunately, my wife is very much alive, though, which eliminates me from being Danny.
Yeah.
So, it's not a perfect metaphor. Yeah. Not a perfect comparison.
Jay, you were being critical of Vince Vaughn movies before we started recording.
Yeah,
you hate Joy. You said you don't like Wedding Crashers.
I think there's some I think the 2000s was a very weird period for movies, and I think Vince Vaughn kind of led the charge of extremely weird movies. Okay, and I love Dodgeball. Dodgeball was phenomenal.
How about have you ever seen Four Christmases?
No.
Okay.
Oh God, when you want to get into mediocre movies that have a soft spot in John's heart, Four Christmases.
Yeah.
But you said the very weird movies. It's not. He wasn't in Kubrick movies. He was just in buddy comedies and romantic comedies.
Yeah, I just it's weird, but it's I feel and at least maybe it's just I feel in those movies he's not really I think he's a talented actor, but I think in those movies you can't really see it at all, and it's just I guess that's just the kind of what was going on in that period of time, but it just didn't feel like it was any good to me.
Anchorman.
Okay,
great movie.
That's great.
Fantastic film.
I don't know, when I think of the 2000s, I think of what's that movie with Adam Sandler and Kevin James, and it's their.
You gotta be a lot more specific.
I realized as I was saying it, I need to be more specific. It's they're firefighters, and they're
I literally saw a clip of that this morning while.
I now pronounce you what?
Chuck and
Larry.
Yeah.
I think of that movie and how mediocre that was, and it's it's completely you don't know what's happening in it.
That's not in the same.
You should not lump Vince Vaughn movies into that.
I don't know. Maybe I in my mind I grouped those together.
Somebody once asked, I think when they were roasting, they asked Kevin James how does it feel to know that every role that you've been in was meant to be for Chris Farley? Spot on.
I mean, Ryan, Colin, am I allowed to ask about your holidays? Do you think it's too late to talk about the holidays now?
John, me and you bonded last year driving to the Drexel game, listening to Christmas music before Thanksgiving even hit. So I'll take you asking about the holidays on January 17th.
You have vocalized that you get upset and you're ready for Christmas to be over almost at the end because you're so upset about it, and now it's been almost a month and you're asking me.
Colin turned 21 over the break.
That's a better question.
I did turn 21 over the break. I don't think that story is appropriate for the entire podcast.
Colin Schofield is a fine, upstanding citizen. He's a great student, great contributor to Owl Scoop. Turned 21 in Annapolis.
It was a good 21st birthday. It was how a 21st birthday should go down.
However,
everyone told me.
You did not get to experience Pussers as a 21-year-old.
I did not get to go into Pussers, no.
R.I.P. Pussers.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
There were plenty of bars though, so
yeah.
We went to an arcade bar. I got to play some pop shop basketball. Which was fun. I set the record on one of the machines which I always take pride in.
You
So
said a Papa-Shot.
What was the
record?
number?
the number was, I think I got up to like 71.
Gotta get triple digits, man.
Yeah.
It was like 30 seconds. Keep in mind, I wasn't entirely there.
Fair point.
In not to go too far back, there used to be a place called Stadium Grill in Eagle that we'd go to in high school. And whenever the Papa Shop record was set by somebody other than me or my friends, we would just unplug the machine. Unplug the machine, plug it back in, new records.
You're a Chester County degenerate. Unplugged machine. Kyle got engaged in Annapolis. It's a special place.
I feel like
Yeah,
I remember
11
hearing
years
that on
ago.
one of the episodes, and
Yeah.
it made me happy to hear Annapolis on the episode.
Love Annapolis. That was 11 years ago. It was a different world.
Yeah.
Kyle was a different man.
It's about
Now
the
it's pretty much the same.
Yeah. It's about the same. About the same. Well, in addition to holiday banter, we have a great show ahead for all of you. Obviously, we are here to talk about Temple's big 88-81 win over 18th ranked Memphis. The Owls are 7-0 at home now. It's their first win over a ranked opponent in almost 2 years. We will preview the Temple women's home game against Charlotte tomorrow. We're recording on Friday, so that game is tomorrow at the Liacouras Center. We'll talk about some recent Temple football roster updates as well. We've got a lot of mailbag questions to answer. Happy to always have you guys put some good questions on the agenda for us. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road of the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York. Call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. Johnny, do you have something cooked up for On or Around the State, or are you literally just going to it right now?
I am literally just going to it right now, which not my brightest moment, especially after my last showing.
Oh,
Completely.
Pat Egan. I've got Pat Egan, former 97.5 The Fanatic on-air host and producer, texted me a couple days ago. He's like, got through the latest episode, and I'll have to read the text message to you as you're
Yeah.
sorting things out. But I asked if I could share this feedback, and he said yes. It was pretty funny. He was critical of, yeah. You know how that Green Bay offensive lineman came in and he gave up about 5 holding calls, looking
Oh,
like he was
God.
lost, was in way over his head, and then got benched. That was Johnny with On Around the State this week. Makes you appreciate Declan a bit more. And I said, can I tell him that? He said, yes, but also tell him this came from a good place, because I know he's better than jazz drummers and butchering James Gandolfini's name.
You know,
It's just his range. He said.
no, you know,
Pat loves you though.
No, and I appreciate the criticism, because I said firsthand that was not a great showing. You know,
On last week's episode, Johnny butchered James Gandolfini.
and you want to know the crazy part is I actually looked up how to pronounce his name like in Google, and then when I was in the moment, I just faltered.
I just imagine you being at home over the break, up in your room saying, Gandol. Oh, damn it. James, get Johnny, is everything okay up there? Yeah, Ma, shut up. I'm just trying to pronounce a name. Leave me alone.
Okay, I don't think it was that. I don't think it was exactly that, but I did practice his name before we started recording, and then I got to the moment, and I was so focused on getting the question out that when I got to his name, my mind went blank.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
You missed your one shiny moment.
Yeah.
you know, that is very true.
Yeah. What do you got for us this week? Have you guys done On or Around the State before? We didn't do that for the live show.
No.
So it's basically trivia.
You do not have to explain it On or Around the State.
This is the second time that you've had to explain On or Around the State in the same amount of episodes.
Hard one.
But you explained it to Dante last time. Now we're explaining it to hopefully 3 listeners of the Scoop before they
Yeah. I mean,
hopped
I don't-
on.
Yeah.
You ever want to assume anything? It's a Friday morning. It's early. We're at the
It's
Liacouras
in
Center.
the name.
Yeah. All right. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Well, do we want to start with? Which one of you wants to? We'll start with Ryan. Ryan, do you want to do birthdays? Do you want to do events?
Events.
Hmm.
All right.
0 for 1.
On this day in 1958, this NHL hockey athlete was the first black athlete to play in a National Hockey League game when he debuted with the Boston Bruins against the Montreal Canadiens.
1958.
Yes.
I couldn't name 10 NHL players right now. I'm not a
Well,
great
6
NHL
years
historian.
Isn't this your team, Ryan? Shouldn't you know this?
Yes, yes, it is.
Draw attention to the fact he's wearing a Boston hoodie right now.
Yeah. The worst part is, I don't know. I know I've seen it on some Sports Center ticker on ESPN. I know I've seen it. I just forget.
Mhm.
I don't know.
It is Willie O'Ree.
Didn't know that.
Great. Yeah, couldn't tell you that.
Moving on to the next one. In 1983, the International Olympic Committee officially reinstated the gold medals of this American athlete who had won the decathlon and the pentathlon at the 1912 Olympics in Stockholm.
I know this. There's a town named after him.
Jim Thorpe.
Correct. Obvious one that I think everyone should get in this room. On this day in 1986, this was the first day celebrated as a national holiday in the United States for this activist.
Martin Luther King Day?
Correct.
Martin Luther King Day has only been around since the 80s?
86?
I guess it couldn't have been around that much before. But 86.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So to put into perspective how old John is, then that means for many years in school, he did not get this day off.
I was 10 on the first MLK Day.
So your first 5 years of public school, you were in school on this day.
Jesus.
I was just trying to show up to school on time, knowing where to put my backpack, knowing which books to read. 86, I was in 6th grade at Yukon Hills
Jesus.
Elementary.
Jesus. You're not 10, you're not 10 in 6th grade, are you? You're like 12.
Well,
11.
no, we moved to Downingtown in 86, and I started 5th grade at Yukon Hills and thought it was
This
still
would have been January of 86, so you would have been 5th grade, right?
January of 86. Maybe we were still in Pittsburgh. I don't know. No one on this podcast cares. But yes, that is stunning that it's only been around as a national holiday since 1986.
Yeah.
And also that you had no recollection of it. Of anything involving
America,
Martin
man.
Luther King Day.
Yeah.
Brutal. We're going to move on to birthdays now. On this day in 1969, this WWE wrestler and actor was born.
The Rock?
The Rock? Yeah. Oh.
No.
69, he's not that old, is he?
Nah.
Maybe. This is the U.
Very famous, had a lot of pyro for his entrances.
Is it Hogan?
Mm-mm.
Well, Hogan's a lot older.
Yeah, Hogan's a lot older than that. He also yes. My next clue was that he starred in a Marvel
That's
movie.
a good one.
Batista.
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 You know, he said he lost all of his money in between wrestling and Guardians of the Galaxy.
I believe,
was-
I
yeah.
believe
He was
that.
just broke. I was like, yeah, that checks out.
Moving on to the next one. On this day in 1999, this current NFL wide receiver was born. Again, I'll give another hint because
Wait, what year?
he
Yeah.
played at Clemson, was the all ACC team.
DeAndre
T.
Hopkins.
2019.
Higgins.
T. Higgins, yeah.
I didn't hear the years.
Okay.
There really isn't any other birthdays. I'm going to try and find another one. I know because I realized that was really short, so I'm working on the fly here.
That's crazy. I have some.
You do?
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go ahead.
You
You
Jack.
should have spoke up about this. Like,
Yeah.
you had the
Jay coming
opportunity
out
to
of
take the baton.
Oh God.
Jay, take
been,
us home
I've
here.
been waiting for this moment, Johnny. I've been disappointed with your performance, and I had it on standby.
All right.
Ooh, I love
All
a
right,
good
Jay.
coup. I love a coup.
All right.
Like, why not come on my first episode and just make a splash? But this actor was born on this day in 1931, and he is known for his prolific voice and was a movie that we should all know and love. A baseball movie, I'll say.
James Earl Jones?
James Earl Jones.
There we go.
Oh.
Nice.
Another actor, this time born in 1962, and I will say more known for his comedic roles. Very famous in comedy shows and comedy movies and shows even. Yeah.
Eddie Murphy?
No.
No, Eddie Murphy would have probably been before 62.
You gotta give something.
Give us a hint.
Yeah, I
Another
was
hint?
I will
Not so
say-
easy, is it?
Not okay.
Yeah, it's a walk a mile in my shoes, buddy.
Johnny with the strays.
He came at me.
Listen, I did what I had to do, but I will say he's I'm trying to find a okay. You know what? He has been in a recent animated kids movie series. I would say
Steve Carell.
no,
Chris Rock.
no. What did Chris Rock in?
Madagascar.
It's not recent. Like when I mean recent, like just came out.
Oh, okay.
Who's in the Lion King?
Jack Black?
No. Okay. He was also known for this Christmas movie where he his heart may have been
Oh, Jim Carrey.
Jim
The Grinch.
Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Oh.
I told the story before, but in 6th grade, that was a field trip of ours. They just took us to go see Jim Carrey's The Grinch. That was
Really?
the entire field trip.
What a field trip.
They walked us across 113 to the Regal 16 or whatever it was at the time, and we just watched Jim Carrey's Grinch, and we went back to middle school.
What a letdown of a field trip. That field trip's
I had to get a permission slip signed for it.
Okay. My final one is
permission slips.
To go to the movie.
that's crazy. Yeah, okay. So this boxer was born on this day in 1942, and that's all I'll say because it's very easy.
Is he
up on
behind
my
John
wall?
right now?
He is behind John Muhammad Ali.
Go. Right. All right. So Johnny, you went maybe like 5 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm just gonna say this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna defend Johnny a little bit here because I did, I was kind of aware that today was Muhammad Ali's birthday. You guys were looking at different dates. Johnny is going off tomorrow.
I'm going off tomorrow, which is the day that this will
Oh,
come out.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Honest mistake on Jay's part, but I like the spirit of him.
The name of the whatever the segment is on or around this date. So they're both.
Yeah. There we go. Everyone's right.
They're both correct. It's just Johnny
Participation trophy hour.
Johnny
Everybody-
drew the short straw.
No, what do you mean? We do it the day the episode comes out every time.
The segment is not on this date. It's on or around this date. So you have some flexibility. People, it's a podcast.
You're right.
It's a
I
podcast.
think no.
This isn't live television. People can listen to this whenever they want. They can listen to it tomorrow. They can listen to it
No,
Monday.
and I'm saying like that's fair. Like I honestly I think Muhammad Ali is a good like person to mention for the around part. I'm just saying like we were just looking at different dates. That's why he didn't come up for mine.
One of
Can
my
I
favorite.
can I take a moment to can we pour one out for the Supreme Court just held up the TikTok ban?
Did they really?
Yeah.
Good
Mm.
lord.
We're in the end days. The end days.
There's just going to be like another TikTok. Will there not be?
It's the principle, John.
Yeah, I've been learning Mandarin so I can be on
Red Note. Red Note.
Red
Go to Red Note. I signed that I'd uphold the entire Chinese Declaration of Independence.
I
or whatever it is,
I
their
am just going to tell
constitution.
you, I could not care less about my data being stolen.
No,
Everything's taking my data. I do not care.
Meta literally sells our data to China.
They have the worst algorithm in the world. You look at one video for 1 second, it's your entire Facebook feed for the next 3 weeks. So
It's so bad. And
I don't
all
care.
the data leaks, all the hacks, like how like,
Yeah.
they should be the ones getting banned.
I don't even look when Credit Karma emails me now and says your email was in a leak from whatever site. I don't even look anymore because I don't care. Like privacy's a lie. Give me my damn TikToks.
Seriously, I mean, it's like I'm perfectly okay with them having my data because everybody already has it. So let me just see my funny TikTok. That's all I want.
We sound like a bunch of old men conspiracy theorists sitting around like it's all predetermined.
No, we're talking about TikTok. We're not talking about we're not talking
I know,
about reels
I
or
know.
Facebook videos. We're not talking about reels or Facebook videos. Like it's TikTok. Old people aren't on TikTok.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
John, are you on TikTok?
I'm not on TikTok. Should I hop on these last 2 days?
For the last day,
Yeah.
just coming on.
Yeah. Hey guys, I found this new social media platform. It's called TikTok.
It's okay. Someone here in this room doesn't use TikTok and has a superiority complex over people who do not use TikTok.
I'll say I used to be
Colin,
vague.
what is that supposed to mean? I do not have a superiority complex.
You're an IG Reels stan. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I like Instagram Reels more.
Which is just
I
TikTok
love-
6 days later.
It's
just
literally
like-
all it is. You're seeing what I saw 2 months
Yeah.
ago.
I
told-
like it more.
I told Declan yesterday, I said, when was the last time you checked your Instagram DMs? He said, it's been a few weeks. I said, I think I've sent you I've spammed him with 29 Instagram messages.
I don't
I'm
get
now
that.
doing
I don't
to
get that
Kyle.
many, but I wake up to like John clearly moving his bowels at 6 a.m, sending me like super 70s sports Instagram reel.
Hey, man. Just,
I used to be very anti TikTok when I thought it was all like 14-year-olds dancing, and I was like, oh, nothing to do with this, obviously. And then dip your toe in. It's a lot more than that.
It is. It's a lot more than that.
Like you get a lot of good recipes, a lot of good, ring videos.
Yeah.
They have everything. Well, I guess had.
Ad. Anyway, we should talk about Temple sports.
Yes, we should. Let's talk. Yeah, because people did not come to the scoop for TikTok conversation. Maybe they did. Who am I to say? Let's talk about this 88-81 win over Memphis for Temple. Temple is now 7-0 at home now. Their first win over a ranked opponent since that win at number 1 Houston almost 2 years ago. Jamal Mashburn Jr. had 21 points, but Shane Dezzoni was really kind of one of the MVPs of the night, if not the MVP of the night. Second straight double-double. This one was comprised of 15 points and 13 rebounds, including 8 offensive rebounds. Temple out-rebounded Memphis 49-25, which is pretty staggering considering how poorly they have rebounded at times, or most often this year. Only bad thing to come out of this game is the Elijah Gray injury. Came out the 5:52 mark of the first half, holding his left hamstring, right? As far as I know, so we asked Adam Fisher about Elijah last night after the game. He said he didn't have an update. As far as I know, he's getting evaluated again today, but I would be mildly surprised if he plays on Sunday against Tulane. But let's go with, again, we can look at stats. All of us were there last night covering the game. Penny Hardaway kept emphasizing it afterwards. Penny, we got, 15 minutes of Penny throwing his team under the bus, which is standard Penny Hardaway. And I mean, not that I would necessarily disagree with anything he was saying, but it's just never Penny's fault, which kind of cracks me up. But why did Temple win this game? You can't say that they won it comfortably because it got a little hairy down the stretch, obviously. They had a 15-point lead. Memphis cut it down to 2 at one point, then it was back to 3. But they led for more than 33 minutes of this game. And again, even though things got a little dicey down the stretch, they looked pretty comfortable playing with the lead. Why did this happen?
I think for me, the biggest thing was the offensive rebounding, and especially the guards when it came to rebounding. Shane Dezzoni obviously led the team in rebounding, was a key part in that. But Fisher has said all along that he needs the guards to help out with the rebounding when they are having rebounding struggles early in the early parts of the season. He said the guards need to come back and help while the forwards box out, and that's exactly what they did, grabbing the offensive rebounds, out rebounding Memphis on the offensive boards 22-10. I mean, Penny Hardaway said it. Anytime it felt like Memphis came up with a big stop that could flip the game on its head, someone was grabbing an offensive rebound, extending the possession. The one that obviously comes to mind is the offensive rebound that they got it back to Mashburn, I think, with like 3 minutes left, and he hit that 3. I think they got 2 offensive rebounds that possession and got it out to Mash for a 3. So I mean, I think just that play is indicative of how the game started. I mean, they came out playing like that and kind of jumped on Memphis, where Penny Hardaway had said that they kind of came out flat. And I think those offensive rebounds kind of set the tone, and I think that's what kind of led to it.
And I feel like off of those offensive rebounds, like they stepped up and everyone was hitting really big shots throughout that game. Like it felt like every time Memphis got within reach and it felt like Temple was about to kind of lose control of the game, someone stepped up and made a big 3 or stepped up and made a big play. I think of Quante Berry's bank-in three-pointer from the parking lot, and then he followed that up with the layup, or Shane's fast break dunk. Like it just felt like there was big shot after big shot that people stepped up and made for Temple, and a lot of it came off those offensive rebounds. And it was impressive shot making for me from almost everyone. Quante Berry played so well. Shane Dezzoni really played well. I mean, Jamal Mashburn shot only 4 of 16, but when everyone was struggling from the free throw line, he made 11 of his 12 free throws. So that came up really big down the stretch. And yeah, I just felt like everyone kind of made big shots last night against Memphis to help keep them in that lead for 33 minutes and propel them to a gigantic ranked win.
Yeah.
I think you just saw them get more comfortable with Memphis's press. I mean, the first 5 minutes of the game, they looked like, okay, this could be bad. Like they're not struggling. They turn the ball over well a lot. Unfortunately for them, I mean, Memphis kind of went cold offensively in that stretch. But I think it's just getting live reps against that. I think they kept calling it the diamond press is the way that Penny describes that defense. And then when they get to the point that it was time to take over, even though he didn't shoot efficiently well, Jamal Mashburn drew 8 fouls. Yeah. Like his ability to just draw contact and get to the free throw line, just kind of calm things down, was the difference. And if you're an optimist, I think the positive thing you can take out of the Lynn Greer permanent or indefinite suspension is Quante Berry might be the AAC's most improved player.
Yeah.
Like he played with a confidence last night, 38 minutes, 19 points, is now averaging double digits for the season. He looked nothing like the player he was last year. He looked like a type of guy that quite honestly can be, at the very least, he's already a starter in this conference, but might end up being, if he keeps progressing, like an all conference level player at this level. So I think just the development of him, seeing live reps against that defense, it's not something you can simulate. So their ability to handle that got better as the game went on.
Kyle kind of alluded to it too. Memphis was able started off cold, even though they were kind of stifling Temple with their press, and just Temple being able to like take over after the first 5 minutes of the half. Both were playing sloppy, but once Temple was kind of able to like find the groove and really kind of jump on, I feel like that was kind of something that was big to kind of seeing them just they'll play off for a little bit, and then once they end up letting their opponents end up coming right back, even though they end up doing in that late in that second half. They always felt comfortable and in control. Usually, especially in go back to the ECU game, ECU came back, but didn't feel like Temple was in control of that game anymore. Every single time that Memphis would strike back, Temple had an answer, and I think that was really huge for them.
Yeah, and Shane said last night, he's like, that was the game that built us. Heading into this game, I mean, Memphis had played the toughest, I don't know where it stands today, toughest schedule in the country, toughest non-conference schedule in the country. The game was about so much more than stats. But statistically, heading into the game, they were kind of a middle-of-the-pack team in the conference in a lot of statistical categories. They can shoot the hell out of the ball. Tyrese Hunter, 40% three-point shooter. Eventually, his shots started to fall. PJ Haggerty, who they saw last year at Tulsa, he eventually heated up, scored 21 points. But they're not a terrific rebounding team, and it's not like they don't have size. Like, they have Moses Sisa, they have Dane Danger. Again, maybe they turned it around. They've got a lot of talent, but there was a fairly large Memphis media contingency there last night. Like, they sent the Memphis, I think the Commercial Appeal had somebody up there, a couple other people, and it was around this time last year where Memphis went in the tank. And Penny, again, loves talking to the media. It was like kind of around this time last year when things really started to go in the can. And so they weren't the tougher team last night. And I'm certainly not taking anything away from Temple, but here's a clip of Penny Hardaway talking about how Temple was just that. They initiated the action more. They were the tougher team. So this is Penny just talking about the difference in the game last night.
Tough game for us. It was about physicality. Right away I knew what their mindset was: to crash the glass, be physical, be tough. And for whatever reason, we weren't ready to take on that type of physicality when we had just had 2 games of that nature. Obviously, it was on the road. And you got to give all the credit to Temple, man. They took everything that we had out of us and won a good game.
So now Sunday's game is going to be, and again, we'll talk more about this game in the mailbag. We got a bunch of mailbag questions later on pertaining to the men's basketball team. But now Sunday's game is going to be for first place in the American. UAB and Tulane are 4-1 hanging in the weekend. Temple, North Texas, and Memphis are all at 3-1 right now. Tulane's 10-8 overall, coming off an 80-65 win over FAU. They got a pretty good player in Caleb Banks, who's averaging team highs of 18.5 points and 7.7 rebounds per game. He's a guy who kind of played sparingly in his first 2 seasons at Indiana, but has really taken off at Tulane. Wanted to let you guys know, a few days ago, wrote a story about Cam Miles from IMG. He's playing really like one of the better post-grad point guards in the country. Cam Miles and Cam Wallace, again, are the 2 guys who signed with Temple back in November, part of the 2025 class. Had the chance, in addition to talking to Cam, had the chance to talk to Jimmy Carr, who is the post-grad coach at IMG. Really cool guy to talk to. He's from this area originally, kind of like the Poconos area, and talked to him just to get some insight about Cam Miles' game and compared him to TJ McConnell, which I thought was interesting. Again,
Declan would love that.
Comparisons are worth, I know, Declan's a huge TJ McConnell guy. Obviously, comparisons are what they are. But nonetheless, Jimmy Carr gave me a lot of good stuff about Cam Miles. So here's a part of our conversation from a few days ago.
He was playing Olympia, which is a good high school in Orlando area, but it's sort of like like a Philly Suburban League team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just an average high school team.
Yeah.
And so he went to the Arizona campus seeking out competition for his senior year. He knew he would be young going into his freshman year, so he's here, getting bigger, stronger, gaining a year of experience. Just he's a real purposeful, real basketball kid. He loves it. and just a great kid, big time competitor. Won MVP last year up at the Hoop Hall Classic in the game that Arizona Compass played, like a nationally televised game. So he's been around it forever. Plays always playing at a high level and seeking higher level, always challenging himself. I think he's a really good pickup for Adam and Temple.
I mean, I know a lot of people know about him, but if you had to describe him to someone who'd never seen him play live before, what would you say?
You know what the comparison is to me? T.J. McConnell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people. Relentless guy, great in ball screens, could really, really handle it.
What's he like off the court? I know, I've talked to him a couple of times, and he seems pretty businesslike, and he talks about how he's learned from his father and his stepfather, and he seems pretty, pretty focused.
He's an old basketball soul. I think he's got a good appreciation and respect for the game. I think he's one of those kids that guys like to play against because, one, he's going to be 100% 100% effort guarding the ball. He's got a toughness about him on the defensive end. And then just offensively, really, really good in ball screens, extra pass kid, does a great job of finding guys late. It's like playing against a boxer.
Mm-hmm.
He's always counter punching. He's always jabbing at you.
Are there certain games or even certain parts of games that flashed you this year? He's playing against some good post-grad teams. Any plays or games that stand out to you so far from what he's done?
We just played we beat NBA Academy.
Okay.
Africa by 25 last game of our tournament. And he absolutely controlled the entire pace of the game.
Are there any stories that stick out to you? Maybe when you first met him, when he first got to you guys?
Yeah, so, I went and watched him in the first weekend of the AAU live period. He was playing with two other point guards on the court on his team. The AAU team, sometimes the rosters are sort, especially the first time out, the first period, the first live period. And he was just he refuses to play the game the wrong way. He's never a kid who's going to be stat hungry. He's never a kid who's going to be, just out there getting his, up 20 or down 20. And that really impressed me.
All right, so you can check out that story on the site. Again, we'll talk more men's hoops in the mailbag. Let's talk about this Temple women's team. They've got a game coming up against Charlotte this weekend. Temple's 10-6 now after their win over Tulsa. Charlotte was a much better team last year, right? Now they're 5-11 this year, 0-5 in conference play. They were 16-15 overall last year, 9-9 in conference play a year ago. So you've got 5 games in the conference play now. Temple's 4-1. Jay, you've been covering the beat as well as anybody. You guys have all been around this team. So a lot of basketball left to be played. We talk a lot about where their shortcomings are. Do they need another scorer? Do they need another rebounder? But start to turn the corner here. I'll ask you guys 2 questions. What do you see from this team that has allowed them to turn the corner over the last couple of games? Obviously, they've won some fun games to cover, overtime game on the road, and then a buzzer beater here at home. What are you starting to see from this team that might lead you to believe that they are definitely heading into the right direction?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me, and I think it's something that Coach Diane Richardson is constantly preaching, is the equal opportunity offense. And you see that when you're, a leading scorer like Tierra East isn't playing well, that Tariana Gary steps up, or Kayla Turner makes that big impact off the bench. And even Julissa Molina has kind of picked up and really improved in her second year as well. So I think just these players and their ability to step up when another one isn't, pulling what they usually would, kind of allows them to really pull through, especially in difficult games.
I mean, I think for me, you kind of mentioned the people that have stepped up, but I think Julissa Molina is someone that they kind of were hoping would progress this season. And in early parts of the season, when they were struggling, she was struggling. And now, obviously, the turnovers are still a bit of an issue for her. She had 5 against Tulsa, but she still had a double-double. If she's able to get double-digit rebounds and also put up 8 to 12 points, I think that is a huge difference for Temple, because rebounding's been a struggle for them. And, if you can get someone down low that can be a body down there and help you have some physicality, I think that's something that Temple was missing at points last year because Rain Tucker struggled a little bit. Inez Piper wasn't always the most physical down low. So I think if Julissa Molina can fully kind of step into that role, which it seems like she has the last couple of games, I think that's a key factor for Temple. I mean, obviously, Kayla Turner, TR East, Tariana Gary, like, they're huge, but I think Julissa Molina is just as big for this team.
I'm gonna bounce off you talking about the front court. I also like seeing Anissa Rivera coming off the bench. We talked about Killer Turner as well. Just people that have been able to step up when maybe Therese isn't shooting well, Tristan Taylor isn't shooting well. They're able to come in and really help flip a switch for this team, kind of really help them get a break and be able to pull out these games late as well.
Anissa Rivera has been huge. Julissa Molina, you guys were talking about her last year and just say she looked just not lost, but maybe just didn't look confident. Is just, I know it sounds like such a cliche, but is another season more confidence a big difference for her? Because she keeps coming up over and over again saying like if she could have just turned the corner last year, maybe they win a game or two. And
I mean,
I think it's been a big difference for her.
I mean, Coach Richardson had always said like her coming over from the Netherlands, I think they play a little bit differently when it comes to like the off-ball screens and stuff like that, and that was a big issue when it came to stuff like that. And I think it was still a little bit of an issue early in the early parts. It comes up here and there, but I think it's you mentioned like her being more comfortable. She's more comfortable and confident because she always had the talent. I mean, that was pretty evident while she was playing. I mean, it was frustrating at times for the the stuff that like the mental lapses, but I think now that stuff, like while it's still there a little bit, like the talent's starting to outperform like the missteps, and I think that's a big thing.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. So, I mean, it sounds like an odd question to ask considering they're 10-6, 4-1 in the league. They have won 2 games in a row. So again, they've played some good basketball lately. Even in those wins, again, they beat Florida Atlantic in overtime, 75-69. They had the buzzer beater to beat Tulsa, 73-71. What gives you pause? Again, they had a share of the regular season championship last year, fall short in the conference tournament. What do you see that would concern you or lead you to think that they might plateau? Again, it's January 17th, a lot of basketball still left to be played, but where are the shortcomings? Where do they still have to work on?
I feel like it boils down to the offensive efficiency, which has been kind of talked about all year. And in the beginning of the year, it was the slow starts in the first half. They'd almost sleepwalk through the first quarter and a half of games and have to play catch up. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Now it feels like they've kind of solved that, but now it feels like they're sleepwalking coming out of halftime almost. And it's in the third quarter where they had a big lead against FAU and a big lead against Tulsa, and they blew both leads, and it nearly cost them both games. And it's the offensive inefficiencies. It feels like shots are being forced, and there's some bad shots being taken. Tierra East has not played her best basketball lately, and other players have stepped up. It's just a matter of can Julissa Molina continue to produce at the level she has been in these first 5 games in conference play? Can Kayla Turner keep scoring 15 to 25 points off the bench for them? Can that offensive keep being efficient? Can they play efficient basketball for an entire game on the offensive end? Because the defense is there. We know the defense is going to force turnovers and play hard-nosed and play tough, but it's the offense where, questions can get raised, where there's quarters, like entire 10-minute quarters, where it's almost the offense just goes 4 or 5 minutes and half a quarter without scoring. And that's where the shortcomings come for me is come March, like that can cost you those 5 minutes in the third quarter. That can cost you a basketball game in the AAC tournament. That's something that's just going to kind of have to be weeded out as we get closer to March.
Yeah, I think the consistency is probably the biggest thing. And I talked to Coach Richardson yesterday briefly, and that was one of the things she was open about. It's just like, how can they be more consistent? And she said it's for her, it's a rotation thing and fixing the rotations, especially when there's dull moments. And I completely agree with that, especially when you have so many talented pieces that can come off the bench, and especially some of the younger players like Savannah Curry, who's kind of made an impact at times, or Killian Sedano, who's come off the bench. And I think when you're trying to mix in it, and it's still, you're kind of solidifying your rotation and what that looks like now, especially in conference play. But I think there's still some tweaks to it, and especially when you have these slow or slumps, you're still trying to find what works and can get you out of those moments. And I think now they're starting to kind of pick up on that, and they're finding and fine tuning what exactly will help kind of just alleviate that pressure.
So big game. 2 p.m., right? 2 p.m. tip-off?
Yes.
Tomorrow at
Yes.
Liacouras Center. Jay will be there for us, so keep your eyes peeled for his coverage of the game. All right, let's talk about this Temple football team. Kyle Gauss has been breaking a lot of stuff, keeping you all updated on recruiting updates, roster updates. Again, if you are not If you have not yet subscribed to Al Scoop, as Declan used to say, what are you doing? Again, Declan was alive. I make him sounding like I'm eulogizing.
You keep making it sound like he's dead.
He's still alive, as far as we know. Yeah.
Again, what are you doing?
Declan's alive. Love you, buddy.
So it's Schrodinger's cat, right? Until you open that box, like we don't know. He's both alive and dead.
Kyle, obviously they've added Aaron Beck with the UMass transfer. A lot of stuff going on with the roster. Tell people, in case they haven't been checking out our coverage, fill them in on what they've missed so far with the roster and recruiting.
Well, if you haven't been subscribed to Outscoop.com, you've missed everything. Because I would say whether it's staffing or recruiting or visits, commits, anything, if you're reading it anywhere else, we had it days, if not weeks beforehand. Like simple as that. They've officially announced the defensive staff. If you subscribe to Outscoop.com, you've known this for a month. They haven't officially announced the offensive staff. Guess what? There's still outlets out there that haven't reported things that we reported 3 weeks ago. Recruiting wise, Aaron Beckwith, which again broke on Outscoop. I think essentially he's just there to replace Demerick Morris, who's now at Oklahoma State. I think he's that type of defensive tackle who the stats might not jump out to you, but he's a 24-year-old that's 300 pounds and 6 foot whatever, who's going to play a lot of snaps up in this new 3-4 defense. Beyond him, I know you have the RMU Robert Morris quarterback transfer Anthony Chickett. Is that right? Chickett, who has played a lot. Like he was their starter their last 2 years. I don't think him coming in by any stretch of the imagination means that they're done recruiting that position.
Mm-hmm.
I think they needed more bodies at that position for spring. I'm not trying to diminish him. I mean, he's a 2-year starter at the FCS level who's put up good numbers. I think he's going to get a fair shot at this, as is Evan Simon, as is Tyler Douglas. But my expectation is unless one of them just completely goes out there and looks like Jane Daniels, there's probably going to be more talent added to that position following spring ball. Because as we know, as of right now, there's still 2 transfer portal windows. The AFCA convention, the AFCA coaches did vote to try to get it down to 1 window, but that wouldn't take effect this year. So when that second window opens up post-spring, you're going to get a lot of quarterbacks out there who are just looking for a spot to start after maybe they saw the writing on the walls at their other institutions. To plug alscoop.com, I would say there's 3 names on the boards right now as of players that have committed as transfers that other outlets haven't quote-unquote sourced yet. So I would just, as always, plug subscribe to alscoop.com to get the latest information. From a non-transfer portal perspective, I think the other big news is that Terez Worthy, again, broken on alscoop.com, is returning to Temple for the spring football. He was the team's leading rusher last year. And obviously had that big 75-yard run against Tulane to save Temple from being shut out by Tulane. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Obviously, he's a talented running back. I think he's only as good as the offensive line they put in front of him, but obviously talent is better than no talent. It's kind of been the last 48 hours on alscoop.com.
Yeah. So obviously, since we last recorded, again, if you haven't had the chance to listen to last week's episode, you can hear our friend Dante Colinelli from the 33rd team, a former alscoop.com reporter. Really did a great job of breaking down what Tyler Walker's offense could look like at Temple coming over from Montana State. Of course, there's the caveat that, like, he could come in and say, all right, well, I'm not going to run everything that I ran at Montana State. I've got to have the linemen, got to have the personnel, but did a great job. Enjoyable listen. So Dante really knows his stuff, watches a lot of tape. So if you haven't heard last week's episode, I would strongly suggest that you do. We asked him about how Alex Orji might fit into this offense. Of course, the Michigan transfer picked UNLV and not Temple. So Kyle, I was going to ask you this again. It is January 17th. You just talked. You did a great job of educating listeners on how the rosters are far from finished at this point. Going to ask you like the kind of useless mid-January question. Do you think that the 2025 opening day starter at quarterback is on this roster right now?
Ooh, we haven't even taken the first snap of spring ball.
Yeah. That's like Al. What was it that Al Golden said?
He would say, "You didn't even ask me to dance. You just leaned in for the kiss." Like,
yeah. Was that a signing day press conference?
Yeah, you were like, "Who's the best player in this class?" And he was like, "Wow, John didn't even ask me to dance. Just leaned in for the kiss." I'm gonna say no, but like I'm not super confident in that. I think they're going to try to upgrade that position. Whether that means, okay, we're bringing in a guy who's plug and play, redshirt senior, graduate transfer, like he's here to start, or if that means like redshirt freshman was a higher recruited guy, didn't work out at whatever Mississippi State, now wants to try to get his feet wet. I don't know. If it's the latter, where it's okay, we're bringing in a younger guy who we think has a higher ceiling, then like I still think Evan Simon's a good enough quarterback that you kind of adjust the system around him, and like he's your opening day starter. If it's the former, and you're like, we're bringing in a dude from who was an FCS all conference level player and just wants to get film against higher level competition, then like you brought that kid in for a reason, right? So I would say right now I'm going to say no because I think it's more likely to be the former, but I wouldn't bet my house on it. I would stake my mortgage against it.
Yeah. So again, we'll answer a couple of football questions here in the mailbag. Again, as Kyle said, it is really, really great time to subscribe to the site. We're breaking a lot of good information about the coaching staff, about recruiting, and it is much more of an around the clock, around the year recruiting cycle of just following roster developments. So stay locked in at Al Scoop for that. Let's head over to the mailbag. Before we jump into the mailbag, Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers has his weekly tip for staying safe on the roads. Again, he is a very helpful, knowledgeable injury lawyer. But before it gets to that point, he wants you to stay safe in terms of just being smart out there. Here's his weekly tip for Al Scoop listeners, and then we'll hop into the mailbag after that.
New York has just made it a lot more expensive if you violate the rules of the road. Now, what does that mean? Did you know that if you were convicted of driving while intoxicated or impaired by alcohol before 2025, yeah, you face fines and surcharges, but you never got points. Well, now in 2025, you are going to get 11 points for an alcohol-related driving offense. And that's not all. You never used to get any points if you were a truck driver and you struck an overpass. Now it's 8 points. But what about for the rest of us? Some of us will drive and we see there's a work zone. And what happens if you get a work zone ticket? Well, that point increase has now gone up to 8. And with it, you now have to pay a driver responsibility assessment. So 8 points on your license, $850 driver responsibility assessment. Be careful out there and make sure to fight that ticket.
All right, let's hop into the mailbag here. A lot of great questions for this week. First one comes from one of our subscribers. Matt Deebs is the screen name. Two-parter. Why do we start Aiden Tobias every night if he's not going to take a shot and never see the court late in games? I get it, but I think there's a simple answer to this. He starts because he is energetic. He's got the wingspan. He defends. He's a good passer. I asked Adam Fisher about this last night. Yeah, if you look at the stat sheet, 18 minutes, he did not take a shot, and he can shoot.
Yeah.
I just think, and I know people hate hearing this, he is a freshman. Things take time. And, so if Aiden Tobias goes into that game last night and he takes 6 threes and he goes 1 of 6, and do you fuel your tank by saying, well, they're starting him, but at least he's looking for a shot? Well,
Yeah.
what if 5 misses create long rebounds and outlets at the other end? They won the game. He didn't do anything bad. He grabbed 5 rebounds, committed a couple of fouls, had an assist, but he's a great passer.
Yeah.
Which again, it's not a super flashy stat, but they needed that against the press last night. And he works well. He works well as a taller, longer, rangier, anxious to defend, anxious to do the little things to set the tone at the beginning of the game. I think it's as simple as that. The good thing is he can shoot. He's not like a low upside guy right now.
No.
You're putting money in the bank with him right now by starting him.
No, and I think it can't be said enough how good he is with on-ball defense. When it comes to when his player gets the ball, it feels like every time he's forcing a bad pass or he's forcing them to have to pass it away. No one's able to drive in on him and get to the basket. I think that's something that maybe you don't see on the stat sheet, but when he's on the floor, that's why he's there to start, because he is a defensive force that can kind of stop the game from getting out of hand early and set that defensive presence. I think that's a big reason why he's there.
Second question here from Matt Deebs, whole musical question. Should we be concerned that Casey Keeler's favorite musical artist is Adele? So the football program on social did a quick 5 questions with them. Does Casey Keeler also know? Am I wrong? Did I hear this wrong? Isn't Adele taking a serious step back from she's not going to be recording as much anymore? Did I hear that right? Or
doesn't she just have a residency in Vegas? I thought that was her whole thing.
Maybe.
I thought her whole thing is like she doesn't tour anymore. She just does like Vegas residencies.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. Was that an unwarranted shot at Adele? Should we be? I mean, I'm sure Matt Deebs isn't like super serious here. Are you guys Adele fans? Do
I
you care about Adele?
personally love Adele's music. I
Adele
listen to it all
rules.
the time.
Adele rules.
I think she's an
Yeah.
incredible voice. I don't think should be concerned at all.
You don't like Adele?
personally.
I love Adele. Set Fire to the Rain.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Adele rules. Like I don't get this
Yeah.
question whatsoever. Adele's immensely talented. She has a voice unlike anybody else. No, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Is this 1988 and you're afraid that you're upset that your coach's favorite artist isn't Twisted Sister? Like, what is this? Like Adele rules. I will accept no Adele slander.
As a music person, I try to listen to a new album every day, but
It's very ambitious.
Yeah.
That is ambitious.
or at least like no, like even like sometimes like I feel like you often hear like a single off an album.
Mhm.
So like even like I'll go back and listen to an album that I haven't fully listened to like all the way
Yeah.
because I'll miss songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love Adele. I'm more of an All I Ask type of person. It's a phenomenal song. And Bruno Mars did a cover that I love as well. But yeah,
She's
I
still with Rich Paul. Are they married or are they
Yes.
together?
I believe she's still with Rich Paul.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know if they're married, but I
think they have a kid. Am I making that up? I don't know.
everyone types.
I'm
nothing
the
to find
opposite
them.
where I don't try to listen to a new album every day. I just listen to the same like songs and things on repeat.
Me
But
too,
Adele,
Kyle, me too.
Adele is in that algorithm.
Mhm.
Adele pops up fairly often.
Yeah. Yeah. So Matt Deebs, certainly appreciate you listening to the pod, but the Adele slander, not appreciated here by the crew, but always happy to talk music. Love that question. Next set of questions here from the screen name Joe Becca, another longtime Owl Scoop subscriber and Scoop listener. Elijah Gray's injury and status, talked about that earlier. Again, Adam did not have a bunch of information. I don't think that was his way of like, I legitimately know that he did not know in the moment when we asked him after the game. I think he's going to be evaluated again today. Nothing official from the team as of now. I personally, as an educated guess, I'd be surprised if he plays this weekend. It looked like a hamstring injury, excuse me. We'll know more at this time next week. Where was the chief of staff last night, referring to Lynn Greer II? Obviously, Lynn Greer III has been suspended indefinitely. We broke that story last week. Lynn Greer III was not on the bench last night. Lynn Greer II was not on the bench last night. Don't know. You know, Lynn's role, Lynn Greer II's role, and that chief of staff role was really kind of to, be a voice on the bench. Again, I think I wish Lynn Greer III the best. I say this, Kyle and I joke around, like standard stock statement. Lynn Greer III has never been anything other than nice to me. Wish him well. I'd be shocked if he ever plays a game at Temple again. In terms of his father, he's fantastic. He's a great human being, was a legend at Temple. I don't know why he wasn't on the bench last night. I don't know if he's just trying to be a dad right now. Lynn II does not have an on-the-court role. He can be a voice for Adam during games, certainly. But, yeah, not on the bench last night. Don't know how that's going to turn out at this point. We'll, of course, keep you updated there. Next screen name here, next mailbag question is the screen name is Sunny Owl. I know September is far away, but should fans be slightly concerned Temple has not added any offensive linemen so far? I knew this would be a question. I don't mean that, Sunny Owl, in a snarky way. Kyle, I'll tip this one over to you. I would think that your answer is probably, I get the question, obviously it's an area of concern, but we also don't know, right, like what kind of offensive lineman Tyler Walker's going to want to look for. We talked about this last week. He wants some athletic guys. We'll see how the scheme's going to play out, but should fans be slightly concerned that they haven't had any offensive linemen so far in the portal or no?
This question is my Groundhog's Day.
Yep.
It really is. I've got this question pops up it's the number one response to every thread on our board.
Mhm.
Hey, they just got a 17-star quarterback commit. Why didn't they get an offensive lineman?
Mhm.
Like, I get it.
It's a lot of stars.
The offensive line coach was not here until like 7 days ago,
Yeah.
10 days ago. And like, you might think immediately like, okay, why didn't he bring so-and-so from Montana State? They're young stud offensive line, like All-American, the sophomore, immediate. I think he went to Michigan State, immediate, like every Power 5 offer in the world. They have 12 scholarship offensive linemen right now. Kevin Terry came back. That's a good development for them. I think I would caution just patience in general with most of these positions. The staff needs to come in and feel out every position group. So for you to come in and be like, okay, all 12 of those guys are useless and they should bring in 15 guys, like that's not going to happen. They don't know these players. They're going to go through spring to learn these players.
Mhm.
And then go in and fill in those last like 17 scholarship spots after that. So, or whatever. Once I update my scholarship board and it finds its way out to the public ether, those last like 14, 13 scholarships. So I get it. I would caution patience. They're not going to add anybody, I think, before spring. You'll see it after spring.
Yeah, yeah. You'll hear us say that a lot. Post spring football, there's going to be a lot of roster movement. Guys are going to figure out where they fit in. Coaches will have conversations with these guys. Hey, if you want to start, it's probably not going to be here. We can help you land somewhere else. Next question comes from the screen name GL and PA. After the ECU and Rice games, now this was a question that was submitted before last night's game. After the ECU and Rice games, what's going on with Steve Settle? Well, Steve Settle started again last night. 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, did turn the ball over 3 times. But simple answer to this one is like, nothing's going on with Steve. I think, again, love these questions, appreciate the questions, but I think it's a good thing if you see, obviously, look, everybody wants all 5 starters to score in double figures and be studs, but if one guy's getting it done one night, another guy's getting it done the other night, and everybody's okay with that, it's called a team. That's what you want. Steve hit a couple of big shots last night. And again, I'm sure that GL and PA here will probably amend their question a little bit. Again, I get where you're coming from. He had been quiet in the ECU and Rice games, but no, I just think, other guys are hot in some games. Zion Stanford's been like that. Zion Stanford hasn't been averaging 15 or 16 points a game, but Zion Stanford and Quante Berry were huge down the stretch last night, playing off of each other. But Steve's just fine. Again, 11 points, 6 rebounds. Again, question was submitted before last night's game. Villanova fan 35. What is Temple's plan with revenue sharing for next year? I mean, they're opting in. Kyle, everybody's opting in the country on rev share, right?
Oh, no, I don't think that's accurate whatsoever. I think you're going to see some lower level institutions. Like, I'd be surprised if I'm going to throw a random name there. I'd be surprised if Bowling Green is opting into rev share.
Okay.
I think at the conference level, everybody like American Athletic Conference and up are opting in. I know for a fact that Temple is like opting into rev share. I don't know what that entails, like the full budget, especially with, as we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, of if now this is considered like a financial like benefit in the same way a scholarship is and Title IX gets invoked. Does that, let's just throw a random number out there. Let's say Temple was originally planning $5 million in rev share across its athletic department, and it was going to be 75% football, 10% men's basketball, 5% women's, whatever. Are you now going to increase that budget to keep that same amount going towards football, and then you're just going to have to match it to the to women's athletic programs? Or more likely, in my opinion, are you going to lower the amount that goes to football and men's basketball and then reallocate that towards women's programs? I don't think you'll ever get a straight answer as to what Temple's budget line is for this and where that's being distributed, unless it's, I don't know, unless that ends up being one of the things that gets reported to like the Department of Education or a FOIA Act or something like that.
Well, look, a great question. We'll be talking obviously a lot more about rev share in the future. Chris Simp 85 is the next screen name to pose a question here, given the recent developments surrounding the 76ers and the Flyers' new arena in the Philadelphia Sports Complex and the Eagles' potential pursuit of a new stadium to host a Super Bowl. Does this increase the urgency for Temple University to secure a permanent long-term solution for its football program, potentially including a dedicated on-campus stadium or a partnership with the Eagles like Pitt has with the Steelers? Well, again, John Fry said, about a month ago, that any plans of a on-campus stadium are most likely, that's not even a conversation right now. Pitt has a great relationship with the Steelers. I wouldn't say that that Temple has enjoyed that same relationship with the Eagles. So great question. Interesting one to ponder. I just don't have anything credible for you right now. I understand why the wheels are turning for fans at this point. If the Eagles, if they do want to say, hey, the link is outdated. Now, when would that stadium be actually open to the public? Would Temple be a part of that? What's Temple football look like 5-6 years from now? We just don't know. Great question.
I think if they do, I think if Jeff Lurie gets his version of Jerry World, like Lurie Land or whatever he wants to call it, and he gets this massive new stadium of 85,000 seats and it has a dome and they can host a Super Bowl, I don't think there's any scenario where Temple plays there. So yeah, so then you got to look into alternative ways of is there another campus another stadium within the region that can handle that? I don't think PPL Park or whatever it's called now out in Chester is a viable option. I think we'd have to be closer than that. So I don't know. I would think, yeah, it'll be interesting. So I also don't think there's any scenario where the Eagles don't build a new stadium if there's going to be this whole like uprooting of that complex and it's going to be more like the Battery and the Sixers and the Flyers are getting a new stadium, stuff like that. I think Jeff Lloyd is going to use that as his opportunity to be like, let's upgrade this. Let's upgrade this 22-year-old stadium.
I know. Next question comes from the screen name Hooter the Owl. That is Harry Mays. I don't think I'm outing Harry when I say that because if you're on our message board, you can see his picture in there. Former 97.5 Fanatic host and still in the sports media space. Does, I think, his golf podcast is called Swing It and Ding It. He's a big golf guy as well, Temple alum. His question, I'd like to know what Coach Adam Fisher thinks his team's identity is. Also, what does it mean to play Temple basketball? Harry, before I could even ask him about that last night, he got right to it. He talked about toughness, and he talked about it after the game. Here's Adam Fisher talking last night about what his team's identity is.
It was great having our commissioner here. It was awesome, and it's the first thing kind of he mentioned, like the gritty, tough team. I thought we showed it in spurts, but we've really talked about that's got to be our identity. And you got to do it at home, right? Like, you got to be gritty, tough, and we need all guys to rebound. We're not going to be a big man who's going to get 15 to 18 rebounds. We're telling him sometimes, hey, box out, our guards come in. So we need everybody to rebound. But I thought our grittiness, our toughness was awesome tonight.
So there you have it. It was toughness. I know it's a cliche term. I know it's a dime a dozen term, but I mean, Adam mentioned it. Penny Hardaway mentioned it. Temple was the tougher team last night. Showed in the final score, showed in the 49 to 25 rebounding margin. So again, it can sound like a cheap throwaway term, but they lived it last night. So Temple fan Al asks, how did things go south with Lynn Greer? I get it. Nobody's talking on the record about this right now, which I respect. Look, I mean, something happened during the ECU game, went south after that. And I think things have been building up a little bit there. I don't know if Adam will talk more about this on the record in the future, but again, he is suspended indefinitely. I would be pretty surprised if Lynn Greer III played another game at Temple. Again, wish him the best. Certainly wish his father the best. Lynn Greer II's role as the chief of staff guy has been more of as a NIL steward, trying to create some relationships there. Again, he can be a good voice on the bench, but he asked for time away. He was out for personal reasons. For the Wichita State game, came back, traveled with the team, did not go home with the team after that. And I don't think it's anything that's going to be resolved. And again, really, if you're Adam Fisher, and if Lynn Greer III came back and said, hey, I want to hop back on the team, I really want to compete for minutes again, you're going to tell Quante Berry that he's going to not start? Again, I'm not even saying that Lynn Greer III is doing that, but be surprised if he's back. So if we have more on the record from people, we will certainly pass that along in the future. Couple more questions to get to here. N Snyder 408, a screen name for our message board. Plan to attend the game Sunday, but my fiance won't stick around if he isn't able to watch the Birds. Where can we watch the Eagles game with them fast? Walking distance from Liacouras Center. Related, is the Peabody ever going to open? And then a slight revision after last night's game. Was Adam Fisher serious when he said, if we got to put the Eagles game on the Jumbotron, then we'll do it. Whatever we got to do to get the fans here, we'll do it. No, I don't think he was serious about it, obviously, but I could see them posting maybe like updates up there, but I think Adam was just playing the hits last night, having a good time. Peabody, was the Temple News reported lately? Is it opening this semester?
I think it was supposed to open this semester, but I don't.
The Iron Hill opening up.
I'm under the impression Peabody is very soon. Like, I think they're at the point where they're getting ready to do like a quiet opening if they haven't already done that.
Yeah.
So.
Again, for those of you who don't know, or if have kind of been, away from this, the Peabody is going to open where the Draft Horse used to be. Where can you watch the Eagles game within fast walking distance? I would say, I mean, people said this on our mess board already, Pub Web.
Yeah.
Better TV setup. I mean, there's Maxie's. Or fast walking distance would rule out like Fairmount, but there's some good stuff in Fairmount, but you'd have to Uber or drive over there. So the Hick had some questions here, but these were more specific. How hard is it to juggle minutes and egos as a coach tries to find a rotation? We'll go with this one, Hick, because I do think this speaks to something that we talked about earlier. I'm not in that locker room day in and day out. Every coach has to deal with this, but someone asked, well, what happened? Where has Steve Settle been? I think that this team has a group of guys that are buying in. So if Steve Settle doesn't take a ton of shots against ECU or against Rice, I don't think Steve Settle really cares as long as they're winning. I mean, the picture of Steve Settle out on the front page right now is hilarious. He's like got his tongue out and he's like, he's a winner. Like he cares. He's gone to the NCAA tournament before. He was part of that Howard team that got to the tournament last year or a couple of years ago for the first time since the 90s. So I think that any coach obviously will be a dream if you have good players who care about their roles and know their roles. So I think that's part of what Adam is getting to the heart too. As he tries to find a rotation, he starts Aiden Tobiasen because he knows he can depend on Aiden to defend, just getting passing lanes and stuff like that. And I think that's all part of it.
The Steve Settle thing, I'm probably just as guilty as maybe overblowing it, but we're talking about a 2-game stretch.
Yeah.
Where he wasn't super involved in the offense. Prior to that, he'd gone in double digits 3 straight games. He attempted 12 shots against Rhode Island. Like basketball, more so than football or something like that. It's just ebbs and flows of the sport and like of the game. And unfortunately, Steve Settle sometimes wasn't involved in the offense. I do think if you want to put a positive spin on some recent roster developments, Lynn Greer being indefinitely suspended and Jameel Brown potentially headed towards a red shirt makes some of those decisions easier. But one way or the other, when the calendar turns to January, you start shrinking your lineup. Like you start getting smaller once you a shorter bench once you get into conference play, and 2 guys like that were contributing, that were in the rotation, no longer being possible or being possibilities, helps that. It makes the decision a little easier. Which is why all of a sudden you start seeing Matteo Picarelli play a little more. You start seeing Aiden Tobiasen play more minutes. Like Quante Berry take a bigger role is because it probably was going to happen naturally anyway, and instead it got kind of forced upon the staff.
Yeah, ties everything together nicely. So even with last night's big win in the rearview mirror, still a big weekend ahead for both the men's team and the women's team. Again, stay locked in at Owl Scoop for all of the football roster and recruiting developments. Guys, it's been fun. The joint effort on or around the state. Talk some music, talk some past the expiration date holiday talk. I promise I'll let go. I won't bring up the holidays next week. Or maybe I
promise.
Will. Maybe you'll start looking forward. What are your Valentine's Day plans?
Oh yeah.
We'll go to dinner somewhere. Oh,
Are you one of those that go to dinner on Valentine's Day, or do you try to go the day before?
Try to go on Valentine's Day. We'll it's right around my mother-in-law's birthday. Hers is February 16th, so we usually are out to dinner for her birthday. Well, Chell and I will do something, whether it's at the shore or around here. I don't know. Kyle, do you, Meg, have Valentine's Day plans?
I'm going to Costa Rica.
Are you really?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Not on Valentine's Day, but like that is our Valentine's gift. So
bringing the kids, or is Claire on kid duty?
Oh, just me and Meg. Like 2 weeks later, like I think I leave like end of February. I'm going to Costa Rica. So
we'll talk more Valentine's Day plans as it gets closer.
I try to do that. I try to do like vacations for that because like last year we did like Aruba. Like I try to do something in like spring instead to be like, I'm a terrible gift giver. Like I'm bad at it. So I'd rather just be like, let's plan a vacation together instead of me Googling like best Valentine's Day presents for wife in 30s and then going to like Etsy and buying like the 7th best. Like,
Jesus. I kind of wish we could have Meg on for an episode because she is very funny and witty and she would have a good response to that. So
she watched the game last night. She left at halftime to go read a book in bed, like on her Kindle. And I went in there after the game was ending and she had YouTube TV up and she was watching the game. I was like, you chose to not watch this game with me. You made a conscious effort to go to a different room to watch this game.
And what did she say?
Meg also thought that they should hit their free throws down the stretch. So
there we go.
Insight.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll have a lot more for you next week. More football, more hoops. Again, appreciate all of the mailbag questions and good hanging out with you guys. We'll talk to everybody next week.